Is it on? Can you hear me?
Speak a little louder.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Test, test, test.
Oh, yeah, okay. We're back behind the speaker.
All right, I'll just talk louder. I have never had anybody tell me that they can't hear me.
Yeah. The only bad part is the AC kicks on and off.
Can everybody hear me? Can you guys hear the speaker?
That's why I say I don't know if you're all right. Just need to adjust about $30 to get you new one, probably. We're going to discuss what we're going to do turning Saturday in October. We've got a disposal for the three quotes in the area.
Yeah, I remember that. As I said, I went there.
Okay. All right. All right, everybody. Welcome to this month's meeting. You notice I'm not behind the lathe tonight. This is Mark Dreyer. He'll be doing our demonstration tonight. We'll be leading off with the demonstration. And then afterwards, we will be doing a show and tell and other business meetings. So that way, Mark can get on his way home. He's come down from Aurora tonight.
That's the nice thing he's telling you. I think it's because if I go last, he doesn't want to see anybody fall asleep while I'm doing the demo.
Well, no,
So that's why he's going to go last, because everybody will stay awake. I run the risk.
So we'll go ahead and get started then, and go ahead and take it away, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Can everybody hear me? All right, perfect. If you need me to talk up or speak up, please let me know. I have a tendency to talk pretty loud. By way of background, to just give you a little bit of an idea of who I am, I'm here representing Easy Wood Woodturning Tools, but here's the beauty of it. I do not work for Easy Wood Woodturning Tools. I only demonstrate for them. So what does that mean? You know what, Easy Wood Woodturning Tools is a spectacular company. I will tell you this, I can answer any question that you have, and the worst case scenario is, if you ask me a question and I don't know the answer, I will simply look you right in the eye and tell you that I don't know the answer. So what I prefer tonight is to be as interactive as you want. I'm told I only have about 6 hours to get this over with. I think I should be able to get it done in about 6 hours. And if you want to know my background just a little bit, I now run the Midwest Pen Turners Gathering, which started out down here in Champaign. Anybody ever go to the Midwest Pen Turners Gathering? Yep. And so it started out here in Champaign with Greg, and now it's moved out and it's in Chicago. We get about 350 pen turners out there in April. I've also worked a lot with the AEWs. Everybody here a member? All right. So if you take a look up here, I have this weird tendency that I walk a lot. So it's my little proud moment. It's the first time a pen has ever been on the cover of the AEW magazine. That's my pen. And you know how you can tell? Because you see the picture here? That's my hand. And then other people here had some questions about some of the stuff that you see here in the casting. I have another article out with John Underhill, a friend of mine, and we wrote another article. So what are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about Easy Wood Woodturning Tools. And how many people here use carbide tools? How many people here strictly use high-speed steel? We're going to switch all you guys. By the end of it, you're going to be out going, I want to go by this. So, give you a background, as I said, I've been turning a little bit over 30 years, and I know at the end he'd go, God, for 30 years I thought he'd be better, but we don't know. So, I started out cutting my teeth in high-speed steel. And now all I use is carbide. And I find that it's just easier for me to turn. I've got much more precise control. And as I said, what I'm going to do tonight, we're going to actually do a lot of turning tonight. We're going to turn a couple pens. We're going to turn a small little pepper mill. We're going to use the beading cutter. Is it okay if someone wants to actually try the tools?
Sure.
Or do you have an insurance issue or anything with them trying the tools?
How's it?
All right.
You got insurance.
Well, at least the beading tool, when we pop up the beading tool, if someone wants to come up and try it, you'll see how easy the beading tool is. And then we're going to talk a little bit about another product that comes out of Easy Wood Wood Turning Tools. It's Yorkshire grit. And so we'll be able to cover all that stuff. So are we good? All right. You know what this points me is... Go ahead.
One statement. With our insurance, you've got to be a member of the AAW.
Okay. Well, when we get to it, I'll leave it purely open as an option. And if you want to do it or you don't want to do it. All right, so for those of you who use high-speed steel, I'm going to go through a little bit of the tools right now. So high-speed steel, this is, which camera is on?
Which one do you need?
Can we go to this one?
Sure.
I'm going to ask. All right, so we're good?
Yep.
Yep. So at high-speed steel, you're familiar with this. So the cut is anchor, bevel, and cut. And that's what we're going to be doing on the cut. And you can see here I've got a nice little angle on mine. Challenge with this is you have to sharpen it all the time. And it's not a real big challenge, but you know what? You really want to get in and you really want to make sure that your tools are sharp. I know people have said, you know, wood turning is kind of cool, right? Because wood turning is the only one where the piece is actually moving, right? We're working on the piece and the piece is actually moving. Everything else is basically mounted to your table or it's static on your table. In this case, the piece is actually moving. So for me, I'm very cautious about safety. So when we get into turning, if I didn't cover it then, I'm covering it now, is I will always wear my face shield. So we'll be able to turn with my face shield on. And then the other thing is, I always wear one of these masks. So this is an N95 mask. And you know the wildest thing about this? I don't know if you guys have noticed this. So a couple years, I've been wearing this mask since 2019, 2020. And then all of a sudden, someone must have caught me wearing it because the entire country started to wear these masks. And I was thinking, I actually went to my wife, did you see that? I started to wear the mask and now everybody wants to wear the mask that Mark is wearing. So, is there some other reason? I'm sticking to my story, but that's what it is. All right, so if you've used carbide tools before, do you guys use Easy Wood or other carbides?
Easy.
And everything is fine, you can tell me that. All right, so the nice thing about Easy Wood wood turning tools is, can we go back to the other one when you get a chance? There we go. The nice thing about Easy Wood wood turning tools is there's three different, there's a whole bunch of cutters that we can talk about, but there's three basic cutters, right? This one's the round cutter. This one is the square cutter. And then finally, we got the diamond point cutter. And we're going to get into using all three of these ones tonight. The nice thing about the tools is you don't have to have a bunch of other systems out there, right? I don't have to have a sharpener. I will do everything here. I will simply give you a little bit of the background on the tools. So the cutter heads are good for about 20 to 40 hours before I rotate it. And then when I rotate it, I get about 4 rotations on this. And here's the way I rotate it. Feel free to do it any way you want to do it, but this is how I rotate it. I will unscrew the screw, and then I'll rotate the cutter, and I'll rotate the cutter counterclockwise. And here's the reason why. When I'm doing my turning, and I'm going to remind you about this when we're doing the turning, when I'm doing my initial cuts, I've got the tool pretty much square to the piece that I'm turning. And so this is doing all the rough cuts, right? It's getting beaten up a lot. And then what I'll do is when I want to make on this piece, when I'm going to make the nice smooth cuts on there, I'm going to take the tool and I'm going to put it at a 45-degree angle when I put it in. And that way I always have a fresh edge. So this way, if I turn the tool counterclockwise, I'm always going to take the the one that used to be the fresh edge is now gonna get beaten up. And then the one that's not, that was completely unused before will get moved into the fresh edge spot. Make sense to you? How many, so the question came up. So, question came up when I was in here earlier with John and we were talking about it. He said that he's actually, when he's had an issue with rotation on here, that the little screw, he's had a problem with the little screw. Anybody else have that problem? All right, well here's what I'll tell you what I do. Every time I'm done using this tool for the end of the night, this is fingernail polish remover. I will simply open up my fingernail polish remover and I'll dip it in there and I'll pull it out and the screw head will come out completely clean. That's all the maintenance I do on this thing. There's no more maintenance and you really don't even have to do that. I find that that's what makes it easier for me. And so, as I said, I turn with these tools about 30 hours a week. And so I will just dip it in nail polish remover and I'll turn it and it will all be good.
What size is the X on that?
Excellent question.
And why didn't you make it standard for the
I have asked about that one too. Let me try to remember. I gotta remember what's the hex cutter on it. I don't remember exactly offhand. So one other thing, I don't know if you've noticed too, on mine, on almost all my tools, this is just something I do. You don't have to. Just as an idea, there's always a little hook here. You see the little hook? What I do is I've got a rack behind me, and then it's from a closet, and it's got the 1-inch spacers on there. So I'll simply just take all my tools and I'll hook them up behind me. And so that's why I don't ever have to worry about them dropping or falling or whatever. So that's why I got them. Any questions so far? About that riveting? Please.
The round carbide inserts particularly, has anybody come up with a jig so you can take the insert out, put it on this jig and grind it?
And sharpen it?
Sharpen it.
So that's an excellent question. So for those of you who asked, is there anybody who has a jig so that you can take this tool and sharpen it? I'm going to give you the answer that you're probably not going to like, but it's the honest answer if you ask me. The carbide cutters are not designed, they can be sharpened, and there's a lot of people who are out there and they do sharpen. I don't. I'm being completely transparent and honest with you, I don't. I get 80 hours out of this thing. So when you're taking that tool and you're actually going on there and you're sharpening it, you're not necessarily really sharpening it, right? You're honing it. And so, and if you think about it, my edge wants to be this way. This is where I'm cutting. When I'm honing it, where's my edge kind of going? My edge is going this way. So the long and short is, I think there are people who do it with a diamond hone, and they'll hone it and they'll rub it on there. The thing that I don't, yeah, and it's perfectly fine, and I know a lot of people do it. I don't like to do it because all I need to do is just have it where I nick it or something like that, and then I'm not happy with it. So for me, just being completely transparent, for me, I get my 80 hours out of it, and then I do put it in a bucket on the side. And when I'm turning something like deer antler, I turn a lot of deer antler in my pens. I'll use those because I really don't care about them anymore. And so that I will use those to grind them up. So long story short, I have seen people do it. They'll use a diamond hone, they'll use a hone, they'll rub it on there, but I don't.
Okay.
All right? Any other questions? And I'll talk too about the negative rake cutter too. I know that one's going to be up there too. So, and we're going to talk about the beading cutter too. So just a couple notes that I have here. Did anybody notice there's a piece of tape on here? And there's a number on here? Any guess what the number means?
How many times you've used that tip?
How many times I've rotated it. Exactly. So that way, because the thing about it is when I'm dipping it in the nail polish remover, it's going to look brand new. So you can't tell. And so every time that I rotate it, I'll put another little tick mark on here. When I rotate it 4 times, I'll pull my tape off here, and then I'll have it, and it's all ready to go. Yes, sir?
Now, is that the round one only? I thought some of those I have a dot on one side of the square or the
They didn't.
radius. Does the round not have a dot?
The round one has the EasyWood logo on it and the EWT on there, and that's about it.
Okay, but the other ones have a dot.
The other ones will have a dot on it. But I still, you know what, for me, it's just because I get so used to it, I still do it, so then that way I know. But that's perfect. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Couple of nice things about Easy Wood wood turning tools, completely made in America, 100%. If you go and you want to see the tool, the handles and stuff like that, they're made in Louisville, and it's not Louisville, it's Louisville, as I was told one day when I was down there. So the handles are all made in Louisville, and the cutter heads are made up in just outside of Schaumburg, Illinois. And so everything about the Easy Wood wood turning tool, all 100% made in America. So, and if you get into it a lot, and they have the traditional natural color handle, and then the colored handles, the red one being the one for the round cutter, the yellow one being the one for the diamond cutter, and the orange one being for the square cutter. You can do that. You can also get the bigger tools. If you do a lot of bowl turning, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here. Yeah, I'm fine with going to the front if you're fine with that. This one is the round cutter, but it's on the bowl for doing bowls or say deeper vessels, if you will. And I actually find that with this round cutter, that I can cut a bowl and anything with much more precision, and it actually goes quicker if I'm actually using the smaller, rounder cutter. I know that the choice would be, we'll use the big cutter and I'll be able to hog it out quicker and stuff like that. I'll tell you this, invest in one of these and you'll find that you wind up using this cutter much more. And then the other one is their version of the parting tool. All the tools will be up here. It's up to you. I can hand these around as long as someone wants to bring them back up here on the table. And just remember that these are cutting tools, so please don't cut yourself. You guys want me to hand this stuff around? You guys fine with it? I'll hand it. And then this is the last one that I'll show you. This is for doing insides of bowls and stuff like that. There's 3 different cutter handles that you can do for being able to go around and get on the inside of a bowl. And we'll talk all about that later tonight. You're going to hear me ask quite a lot of times. What do you guys think? Do you have any questions?
Questions. Those are actually what I'm looking at. I borrowed Sam's carbide number 1 or they were number 3.
Yeah, number 3 and number 1. Yep.
Do you need a number 2? Can you skip that? If you buy the set, I mean, you just buy 1 and buy 3 for Halloween. Do you need that number 2?
I will tell you. I guess it depends on what kind of precise hollowing you want. But no, I mean, here's the deal. If it works for you, I would buy 1 and 3, and if it works for you, just go with 1 and 3.
So I've got issues with the cutter head on parting tool popping out.
Popping out?
Is there any tricks on that?
I haven't had much issue with it, but I've heard other people who have talked about that one. If you have it, here's the nice thing about it, and I'll be completely transparent. If you have a big problem with it, call Easy Wood wood turning tools. Okay. They are, Chris and Christy, for those of you who have, I don't know, if anybody's ever come to the Midwest Pen Turners Gathering, Chris and Christy are there. They are more concerned about making sure that you get great customer support than anybody. And that's why I like working with them. So if you're having a challenge with it, call them. And I've known people that they've brought the tool back in and refurbished it for them. So I don't have that problem, but as I said, I've heard a couple people ask you that before. We ready to go? Okay, so now we're going to get ready, we're going to start doing some turning. So, remember, with the traditional tool, it's up against my side and it's beveled, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to try to ride the bevel. If I'm doing a pen blank, we're going to start out with pens. If I'm doing a pen blank, there's really not a lot of bevel to be riding, and so that makes it a little bit of a challenge. That's why I like to use these tools. Now, I know that most people will take the tool, especially when they're doing something small or precise like this. How you handle it is all up to you. But I know a lot of people will take the tool. Let me go up in front. Is it okay that I just wander?
Yeah. Okay. I can turn the camera.
So they'll take the tool and they'll hold it here and they're going to put it up against the lathe, right? Watch when I turn. Because I want that preciseness of what I'm going to be cutting on here, I'll actually take this handle and I'll hold it like this. This one will go over here. This hand will go over this. And it's locked underneath this arm. It can't go, it can't jump. And then, if you ask me, this is the way that I've, for
close to 60 years now, or I didn't start writing when I was 0, but for close to 60 years, I've been known for writing things like this. And so for me, my tool is going to be way down here if I'm doing pen or very tight spindle work. If I'm doing a bowl or anything else, I'm going to be like that. So the thing about it is, all we need to do is make sure that we're centered, right? So this one's just a little low.
Where's the speed on what you wanted?
Yeah, I think it is. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we turned it up to the high speed setting.
So a tool is always level, right? It's never like this. It's never like this. I know people, here's another one that I see all the time on the internet, and we'll talk about this one. So I've got a negative rake cutter. Anybody here ever tried to use a negative rake cutter or use the negative rake ones? I love them. For doing acrylics, you're going to get almost no tear out, and that's not a challenge to you to see if you can go out and get tear out. But I've seen people say, well, I could take the tool and just do this, right? All I've done is pre-flip this out of my hands when I do that one. So please, tool always level. There is a little bit of a mark here as to how far over the tool rest I can be. And that's all there is to using this tool. All right, so you want to see some cutting? You want to go to the upper one?
Yep.
Mask is, I'm not gonna have the, I would normally wear my N95 mask. I won't do it just so I can be able to talk to you guys when I'm here. But in terms of turning speed, I will turn at the fastest I possibly can. And this has nothing to do with tools and stuff like that. I rarely use the on-off switch on my lathe. I always turn my speed down. And here's the reason why. I turn a lot of different things, right? So I don't want to put a pepper mill or a bowl on my lathe and then turn it on, and I was turning a pen last. And it's going to turn on at 3,000 RPM. So I almost never use the on-off button on my lathe. I'll only turn it. This is a pretty old man drill, so I apologize. There is a little noise to it. So what I'm going to do now, to give you an idea, are we on overhead? We can stay on overhead if that's what you want. I'm going to put the tool in here. I'm going to catch it, and then I'm going to work. I'm going to catch it, and I'm going to work. I'm going to catch it, and I'm going to work. When I get to about the 3/4 point, I'm going to catch it, and I'm going to go the other way. Make sense? So I'm going in. Remember, I'm beating up this edge. And then my next cut, when I'm doing the next cut, I'll rotate it at 45. Pretty easy to round it down, right? And all I did was I went in and I moved it, I went in and I moved it, I engaged that edge, and I let this edge get beaten up a lot. Now I'm going to take the tool and I'm going to turn it at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to catch this edge and I'm going to walk away. So this is always the other thing that people talk about all the time too. Cutting versus scraping, right? You've heard that a lot, especially with wood turning. I know that they say that these are scrapers, but I mean, did you see the streams coming off here? These are pretty good streams that I've got coming off here. So I'm fine with it. I think it's making some really nice cuts. So now I'm going to put it in at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to put it in, and this is still on right above. Yep. I'm going to put it in at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to catch this edge right here, and I'm just going to walk my way down through it. And I'm going to peel the whole thing off.
I normally have a vacuum over it so I can be pulling away my, but what do you think? Right?
Do you make
Are
your
we
blanks
happy?
or do you buy your blanks?
I make most all my own. So this one's Alumilite. This is Alumilite is the material. But it'll work the same thing. It'll work the same thing with any, this is how I cut all my blanks. The only thing that you learn is with the tools is depending on the material, is I may go slower or I may go faster. You guys want to hear, here's the way I time myself. This is just a complete aside. I play 80s on 8 when I'm behind, when I'm down in my shop on Sirius Satellite Radio, and I try to make a pen on, or do a whole blank for every single song. So the nice thing I always tell people is Meatloaf songs I can get 3 blanks done, but everybody else I can get 1 blank done on the time that I do my cutting on it. So any questions on I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing well by you guys on the time and stuff like that, and I want to show you everything that I have and not go into anything specific, right? So what do you guys think? Pretty easy? Tool's always flat. We made those first cuts this way and go in. And then what did I do? I used the new fresh edge to give it, and you saw how nice that came off, right? All right. So the next question comes up is, what about wood?
This is a simple piece of maple. Now I'm going to use the square cutter. And I'm going to do this a little differently, right? So this is all still got its edges on here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to start now, and I'm going to go, can you guys see that I'm about half and half? Half on, half off. And I'm going to use a push cut. And this is not the traditional gouge push cut. This is literally a push cut. I'm literally just going to push in. And then I'm going to take this piece of wood down, all the way down, and then I'll switch to my round tool to get those fine cuts on here. But, are we ready for this one? So I'm just going to speed it up. Take the tool. Pretty easy. So that's how I knock off the edge on these things? And I can do another set of cuts if I wanted to. Then I would flip to my round cutter. I'm going to be at that 45-degree angle, right this way, not this way. And I worked it down. Not hard, right? It's fun. Any questions on why? So I hopefully you appreciate. I used the square cutter just to knock down that edge on wood, right? Acrylics don't have a grain, so I don't have to worry about catching grains or tearing out or doing anything else like that. On wood, you have to worry about grain. So I don't want to have too much movement this way, where I could catch a part of that grain and peel it out, especially when you get to these ends, right? Anybody ever here turn a wood pen and turn the bushing and tear it out? I will say I have. You guys don't have. Nobody else nodded, so that's good. Nobody's done it, but I have. And so what I'll do is, if I use the square cutter up there, and you see that I got it plunged all the way down, I got rid of most all the grain and anything that would catch and tear out the grain from the cut underneath it, right? Because it's all layered. And if there's a piece that's out pretty far layered out, I don't want to catch that and tear that whole thing out. So that's all I do, is I'll push cut it all the way down, and you know, if someone wants to come up, you'll see it. I'm pretty darn close already to what my final shape is, and that took me all of about 30 seconds. Make sense? Any questions on the tools? Let's see. What do I want to talk about? We already talked about most everything here. Lathe is always on. I'm always wearing my safety shield. We talked about the mask. I will wear hearing protection when I'm at home. Problem with wearing hearing protection means that my boombox has to be louder than my hearing protection so I can still hear my music in the background, but that's fine. And we talked about the scoop cut, the peel cut, talked about the sharpening, right? On these things, there's no real sharpening to them. And you can see here, yeah, this is perfect. This is perfect. And I know this is going to be a little bit of a hoaxed one, but if you look here, is this one, is it on the front? Yep. I'll go up to the camera a lot. Can you see in the hole that there's some wood dust? So all I'll do is simply when I'm done at the end of the night, that's the extent of my maintenance. Can you see the hole's perfectly clear? So it's one of those things where, a half an ounce of maintenance every day makes it just easier and that you don't have it. And I had the same thing. I will tell you how many times I've had it. And I'll be honest, when I didn't do that a lot, I would actually have to take pliers on occasion and just know that I've wrecked that cutter head and just turn it that way. So, how are we doing so far? Are we excited? Are we just having fun? All right, I want to just make sure everybody's smiling. So here's one thing that I don't tell a lot of people, but Easy Wood Tools saved my marriage. And you're going to go, Mark, how did Easy Wood wood turning tools save your marriage? My wife is a turner, and she turns a lot of pens herself. And when it first started, she would use, we were using the traditional tools, she would turn them all the way down till the point that they weren't sharp, and that was the end of the night for her. She'd turn off the lights and go upstairs, and every time I'd come down, I would have to start sharpening tools. Now that all it means is that all she's got to do is take the screw it out, turn it 45 degrees, and tighten it back up, completely saved my marriage. You wouldn't believe some of the stuff I'd say when I'd want to go downstairs, and the worst thing about sharpening is you just have to do it, and you know that it's going to take some time. So I love doing this stuff. I love being able to do that with this one. So, all right. Any questions on spindle turning? All right, now we get to go to do some of the fun stuff. Not that pen turning is not fun. It's all I do. I've been a pen turner for 30 years. And as I said earlier, I know you guys look at me and go, huh, I thought you'd be better after that amount of time. Oh, so the question came up also earlier about, this has nothing to do with Easy Wood turning tools. Question came up earlier about the mandrel system that I use. I only turn one blank at a time because I find that if I use the traditional mandrel and you tighten it up too much, you get a little bit of out of round, and that drives me nuts. So I only use this mandrel. And remember you guys heard the noise and I said I found out what it is? Let's see if can you see that the bottom part of my mandrel unscrewed? Now we're going to have some fun. So how many people here turn bowls and platters and use faceplate turning? Have you guys seen the Easy Wood chuck? Do you know how it works?
I have 3 of them.
There you go. You're the guy.
And I had one that had an issue. I emailed them. They told me to send it in. I sent it in, and it was like 4 days later I got it back. They cleaned it all up, fixed it. It was like a brand new chuck.
See, And I agree, I mean, that's the nice thing about Easy Wood and Easy Wood Tools is that's just what they do. So, we're gonna do a pepper mill next.
Which one you need?
Oh, I got it. I know, you tall guys.
Oh, I'm standing closer over here. I can handy stuff. Yeah, everybody check out his fancy case.
I do like this case. Thank you, sir.
I was telling him earlier, Easy Wood Tools needs to make cases like that.
I think, I will take it back to him and I'll let him know. All right, so the Easy Wood chuck, how many have used chucks, right? Everybody's used a chuck. Now, the nice thing about this one is there's two things. Well, there's a lot of nice things about it. First and foremost, there's a speed ring. So when I want to tighten stuff up or loosen stuff, you ever try to put a bowl on and got your hand here and then you got to adjust a bunch of things? You don't have to worry about that with this one. And I'll show you that now. The other thing about it is you can get all the different jaws. You know, on a traditional chuck, and this is, please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying anything disparaging about the other chucks. They're all great. Everything has a purpose and they're all great. This is just why I like this. There's no number on here. So 1 doesn't go in 1, 2 doesn't go in 2, 3 doesn't go in 3. I simply take this, drop it in, rotate it, lock it in. Now it's there. Nice thing about it is, if I, where did I put
Which one are you looking for?
my handle? Oh, this. It's in the nice case. When I want to, I don't know if I'm the only one who does this, but there are times at my house where I should change the jaws on my chuck, right? So I've done something with this jaw and I think, well, you know what, to do the next thing, I probably want to put on some smaller jaw. Well, the problem with that is if I've got to unscrew 8 screws, this one, I simply take this in here, pop it, and the jaw came right out. And that's all there is to changing jaws. So if I want to put it on the next set of jaws or something bigger, I simply take it, drop it in, lock it in, and I'm good. Make sense? All right, so let's do a pepper mill. Do a small pepper mill. For the sake of speed, we're going to just do something small. It's going to be a little bit bigger of a spindle turning than we just did there. But I've already drilled out the bottom of it. And so this is where that speed ring comes in. I can simply move it all the way down, put it up on here, use my finger. That's tightened, right? So I've got it locked in on that side. I've already. And now I will.
Need a T.
Yep. Lock it in. That's all there was. Any questions on the chuck? So anybody, I will just tell you, I'm not great at it. Cutting coves and stuff like that, right? So if I wanted to cut a cove on here, you know, then I gotta learn to take my spindle gouge, put it in at a side, rotate it down, walk it in, go from this side, cut it in, rotate it on, and rotate it in, right? It's a nice thing about using the round cutter. I'm simply gonna just take this, let's make sure it's all on. I'm simply, watch how easy this, I'm going to get a great cove cutter. So I'm going to just put the tool in, I'm going to use the head, the part of the head to straight on that's going to get beaten up. Got a nice cove, it's on the top one, right? I got a nice cove already, right? So now let's say that I want to take this thing and I want to do that nice thing where I round it both ways. So I'll just eyeball where about the halfway point is.
And I'm going to walk my way in. Pretty good, right? Now I'm going to make this top, I want to do it both sides. So I probably want to make it a little smaller and put it in a little bit both sides. So now what I'm going to do is let the tool work. So I got the top in there, right? Now if you noticed, there's a little lump here. If you noticed, I use my long jaws. That's going to allow me to get that tool. It's going to allow me to get that tool to go down and around and into here a little, right? So if I had my small jaws on here, I'd have to worry about that bottom edge. I don't have to worry about that. I've got my pen turning jaws on here. It's got a little bit of a bubble here, but I could take a little bit. Can you see the bubble here where that doesn't look perfectly round? Here, it's driving me nuts. That's why I like to use Spectraply. Kind of gives you a much better idea how well you're cutting. So what'd you think? Cove was a lot easier, right? Because if I wanted to put that cove in, I'd have to use my tool and go down and up and under and then rub my bevel to make sure that I had it the other way. Any questions? It's going that well, or you guys are?
You're all good.
Are we not awake, or? So this is the nice thing about the chuck, right? Is now if I wanted to switch it out and I wanted to do something else with the jaws on here, I can switch out the jaws. I just pop it in, pull them out. I didn't have to remember where the numbers were on any of this stuff. I've got my speed ring that would be able to get this in and out for me. I didn't spend a lot of time sanding it, but you know, it's not a bad little piece. How am I doing on time?
That's 7:15.
And so, like another half hour-ish?
How long you need?
5 minutes. Keep going.
I have to be home by 6.
Five people are going, come on. Some people are going, yeah, we can go a little longer. All right, because I got a couple other things I do want to show you. And you know what? Yeah, we'll do the next one. It's something if you guys want to try it. So let's do the next thing that we're doing. It's the beading cutter.
You mind if I pass this one around?
Yes, sir.
Mark,
Just know that there's no sanding, no nothing on it, and I did it in 30 seconds. Yes, sir.
if you were to sand that, what would you sand that to?
A
What
form.
would you start with?
So I'll typically start with,
150?
no, probably around 200, and I'll go to about 400, and that's about it. And then, if you look at, this is completely not Easy Wood Tools related, like that one, and then I'll spray it with shellac, and but not the inside. I don't spray the insides of them. I'll spray it with shellac. I'll let the shellac dry, then I'll put it on my lathe and I'll sand it all out, and then I'll finish it with lacquer.
So that's how that one is made. Shellac first. Shellac is a little bit more, to me, a little bit more robust. I can get away with a little bit more sanding and things like that. And so I wanted to get that really nice smooth finish on
Your
it.
shellac is that kind of a
Rattle
rattle
can.
can?
Yep, rattle can. What's the yellow one? Zinsser. Yep.
I got another quick question.
Sure.
Those three you're using, what about the 2 and the 4 radius?
Oh, on the cutters?
Okay.
Thank you.
I got both of them, but I don't know, like you were cutting Cove, yeah, you gotta use the round, but I would say a larger radius, you can kinda build.
Well, that was the other one, and I forgot.
For me, they don't catch as bad.
Okay. Well, that's what I was gonna do that with the. I was actually gonna do that with this, but I'll explain that in a minute with this one. And then you know what I did forget was something you didn't mention. You didn't specifically mention it, but I think I got. Can we switch to the overhead? Sorry, and I'm going to come back to that one in a question, in a minute. I didn't get to this, and I should have mentioned this when I was turning on acrylic. See, this one is the traditional cutter, right? So if you look at it square here. I'm going to pass these around. Please promise not to stab your neighbor with it. And then this one is, if we go real close, is that, can you see it there? Is it blurry?
Trying to, it's got it.
Okay. This is the negative rake cutter. And this is the one where it's beveled at a little bit of an angle. I don't know that anybody can sharpen these. I haven't seen a lot of people try to sharpen the negative rake. And the negative rake cutter is phenomenal if you're trying to turn really, really hard woods. It works great. Or things like that pepper mill, where it's got wood and then acrylic and then wood and then acrylic. The negative rake is great. The challenge with the negative rake, and this is kind of in the inherent use of it, you just can't be as aggressive. I don't care how hard you try. Those turns that I did, and I did them really, really quick, the negative rake is not going to allow me to do that. But the nice thing about it is I'm not going to have to worry about
So does the negative rake fit in the same tool
Yes.
handle
Yes.
as?
Yes. And here it is. This is the C3. Sorry, I didn't mean not to pass it. But the nice thing about the negative rake is as you get into these transition spots, as you get into the transition spots, wood to acrylic, acrylic to wood and stuff like that, traditional tools and even the traditional cutters, because you're changing surface, right? This is a little bit more pliable, if you will, or prone, softer, perfect. Prone for digging, where, man, this one's got to get, I use this one all the time as a demo piece, and people have dropped it and stuff, but I still like it. And then then you feel the wood back there and stuff like that. So anytime that I'm doing that, and I do a lot of pens like this too, half wood, half acrylic, I'll use the negative rake cutter on it. So. Any questions on where we're at? Yes, sir.
On your acrylic and your wood together, what do you sand, what grit do you sand on those? When you're sanding acrylic
So when I'm doing acrylics,
and wood?
so even acrylics and wood or just acrylics, they both go the same thing. I will go through 400 wet dry, and then I'll move over to my micro meshes, and then I'll completely do that, except on the pepper mills. Give me a minute and I'll show you that I use Yorkshire grit on them. And Yorkshire grit, this is a little kind of a confusing thing when we talk about Yorkshire grit. Many people think Yorkshire grit is a finish. Yorkshire grit can be a finish. This bowl, I'll pass this around now, because this is what I'm going to show now. We're going to talk a little bit about the beading cutter. And I will tell you, flat on honest, this was the first time I ever used the beading cutter, this piece here. No practice, and I chose a tougher wood. I chose walnut. Walnut can have tear out in it, and so I wanted to try it on that one. So be critical on it if you'd like to look at it and see if there's any tear out on it. But there we go, sir. So I forgot what the original question was.
So Yorkshire grit, it's not a finish, or?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Yorkshire grit
is not necessarily a finish, you can use it. I mean, you don't have to put a finish over anything, but Yorkshire grit is a sanding paste. And grit, so anytime I do anything with half wood or half acrylic, I will typically, especially on pens, I'll go through my micro meshes all the way through. And if you're familiar with micro mesh, it's, just so you know, it's not the same ANSI standard as regular. The 15,000 is not the same ANSI standard that it is for traditional sandpaper. It's on a different meter, if you will, but I will go through it that way. Anything else? You guys having fun?
Yeah.
All right. That'll be a long ride home. If I think that you guys didn't have fun, because I gotta call my wife up and tell her how, you know, how I wasn't sure if they had fun. Oh, anybody ever seen the Easy Wood Tools micro kit? So they got micro tools that fit in this box. This is not them. This, which one are we at? Is this on the overhead? So this looks like, this is a pen. So this is label cast, dyed, and everything else. It's a nice set of pens that are made to look like the micro set. So, all right. So this is the one, if someone wants to come up, if it's okay with you to do beading, we can let them do some beading. Oh, I need, all right, I'm gonna just take this piece, it's just a piece of maple. I'm gonna round it. I guess I should make sure I tightened everything up. Just because I was talking.
I don't want that. I'm glad they made that handle yellow.
Because it's easy to find.
Yeah. I'll set it down and like, where the heck did I put that?
You have no idea how much time I spend in my shop looking for things. All right, so now we're going to use the beading. And I'm going to use, can we go back to the overhead, please? There's 4 different beading head cutters. We'll use probably this one, so you'll see a nice bead in here. But there's a small, and then the big, and then there's 4 different sizes on the beading cutters. And if we take a look at them real close, there's the cutter. And there's a little bevel in there for where the screw is going to go in. So let's talk about, if they go on the square cutter. So this is the square cutter. And I'm going to dip it in my fingernail polish remover. Yes, when I first started, my wife used to go, "Where's my fingernail polish remover?"
About a gallon,
Yeah.
acetone.
Yep, that's.
So it's just acetone and drugs and pretty much.
Yep. So we're going to change the cutter head out. Have you guys seen how you change the cutter head out? It's simply a little Allen wrench. Pop it in there, unscrew it. Hope that you don't drop it. Yes.
Clean up the floor.
Yeah.
Do it over the workbench.
So have you ever gotten one of those just absolutely stuck? You couldn't get that screw loose?
Mm-hmm. So if I, before I started to clean it out, yeah. And what I would literally do is, pen turners will appreciate this. Maybe it's a little smaller. I would actually literally take it over to my drill press and drill off the head, and do it to get it out. But now that I dip it in that stuff, I don't ever have to worry about it. But yeah, I did, and I would literally drill out the top.
Oh, I had one that was, like I said, I talked to you earlier about it, and I know one of the recommendations was take a small lighter and put it to the back of the tool itself, on the back side, let that heat it up, and then it should be enough to loosen up whatever gotten that stuck in there.
Did you hear that, that if you do have a problem with it, you wanna?
Yeah, so one of the, I think it was, I can't remember, I think I called Easy Wood Tool about it, and I had a screw that was really stuck in there, and they said, take a lighter, or something like that, put it to the back of it and heat up that end, and that heat should transfer up in there and shrink it enough so you can get that screw loose. So, it's like anything mechanical, metal, like if it's not gonna come loose with WD-40, heat it up and it'll come loose as liquid.
Hammer.
Yeah.
So on this one now, so I installed the beading cutter bit, and if you look at it, when you look at it, I'll pass this around.
It's basically almost a negative rake. If you look at the back of it, it's got a lot of slope so that it's gonna go in. And how I turn beads, and the way that I think that it's recommended, you will simply, I will take one point and I'll work that point in to the point that I know that it's made contact, and then I'll just do a little bit of a wiggle on it. I will, if you notice on everything else, I run the way that the top max speed. On this I won't. I'll run it probably around 1,000 RPM.
So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to catch, can you see it on the overhead? Catch an edge, you should start to see a line. And then all I'm going to do, all I'm doing is doing a little bit of a wiggle. Then I would take this edge and work it into where that edge would have been. Tools level.
What's the cost for a set of those?
The cutters, so this will go on the square handle, so you can use any of the C2 cutting handles on here. And I think the cutter head is around $25 to $26 each. Yeah, the traditional ones are around $18. I know that these go for about $25.
Did you have inserts a case of 3?
That's just my box for it. Yeah. Well, I want someone to volunteer. Someone want to walk up here? Come on. First, you can look at it.
How many sizes of beading tools?
4.
4 sizes?
Yeah. So what do you think of do you see any tear out and be completely being blunt?
No, that's pretty good.
So, any member of the AAW, is it okay to let someone try this? Or would you prefer as a club not to? So so you have to be is the rule AAW, or do you care?
As far as I know, it's AAW.
Are you AAW? There you go, you're good. I will ask you to wear the mask.
We've got a beat one if you don't want to wear his. You want to adjust his adjustment.
So if you watched, all I'm going to do is ask you to so take the tool, see this edge, kind of line it up. You're going to line that, kind of put a little bit of a weird angle here to start, just so that we get our spacing perfect. Okay. And then once you get that, once you know where that is, slowly engage that, and all you're going to do is this, till you get it down to, you'll be able to tell, you'll be able to see when it's all kissing.
Okay.
Oh yeah, sorry. Around 1,000 is good. How'd you do?
Go a little bit further, but pretty good.
Are you happy?
Yeah.
You want to try it?
Now's the time to try it, because now you're on my tools and your insurance. So, oh, sorry, you figured it out, right? I let the first edge, this edge, just kind of engage over to here. Tools flat, and then just work it. You're If you ask me, it's the easiest way to make a bead. And it's consistent, right? All you gotta do is make sure that that last cutting edge now matches off with the cutting edge of the one that you're doing there. No.
Just 80 hours and you're done?
Yeah.
How many hours do you get out of those?
So that's, that's tough to say. I don't know if it may be more than it. That's still my first set. And I've had that set 2.5 to 3 years now. Yeah. And I will put beads in a lot of my pepper mills, the bottom of pepper mill. I do a lot of spectroply stuff with pepper mills, and so I like to put the beads in there because it looks like I did something really exotic and wild. I didn't. I just used that tool and it did it, and it gave you that appeal. But if you look, you can see it on here. There's really no tear out. So. I would go a little slower, but if you like going that fast, it's all up to you.
And you're getting to the point where you had smoothed off the roundwood. You're running out of the area where you
Yeah.
took the, so, you worried about that?
No, I had rounded it roughly all the way beforehand. I just made that one to try to make it a little bit more flat. I'm sorry?
When you get up to the top, you just start over with
Yeah. That,
There you go. Throw it out.
oh man, you did. Man, did you?
That's where you're gonna put a cove, John. Everybody switch up to the round one.
Well, I will say the other turners had no problem with it. So any questions on that? It fits on your square cutter. So it's going to fit on your square cutter. There's four different cutters that you can use on there. And as I said, we saw how easy it was, right? There's nothing in here, so I know that I can just simply take this tool's warm too. All I'm going to do is knock it out. You guys are all hoping I drop it, I think.
Why don't you magnetize it?
I never thought about that. So any questions on this thing? All right. I'm real happy with it. And we're getting close to witching time. So I got one more thing I want to talk a little bit about, if that's okay with you guys. I'm going to talk about the Yorkshire grit. And as I said, Yorkshire grit is a sanding paste. It can be used as a finish. It can be used as a finish, right? But for the most part, it's a sanding paste. And let's take something like this. So this is a pepper mill that's half wood, half acrylic. And I'm going to knock off the finish that's on there. I'm not gonna spend a heck of a lot of time on this. You know, they always say, what's worse than watching paint dry? It's watching it turn or sand. Oh my God, it can be painful. So, someone left their, these yours?
Yes.
There you go. So I'm just, so this one's half wood, half acrylic. I'm simply gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? I will start out by turning it off. I'm gonna take off just a little bit of it. So I just got a spot in there. So you know when you sand, always turn it off and go with the grain the other way and to make sure everything is perfect. You can tell when I turned it. Yeah, I want to do this the right way. I don't want to. There's a little bit of a, can you see the chips in here? So let me get those chips in. I want fairness to the product, and that's what I'm doing. That's better. Watching paint dry. All right, I did that just so you guys can see what I'm actually doing. I would probably spend a little bit more time, right, sanding this than I just did, right? So in all fairness to the procedure, but I do want to show you this. Can you guys see the scratches in here? Right? And you agree that if I went through more grits and I took a little bit more time, I'm going to get all those out, right? We all agree that we're capable of that. Well, let me show you Yorkshire grit. And is it okay to mention that I donated to?
Yeah, that's the other thing. So I gave out blue tickets to everyone. So Mark dropped off a couple of things of Yorkshire grit. So that's what the blue tickets are for. So once we're done here, I'll pull a couple numbers out and give these to you away. Cool.
All right, so Yorkshire grit, here's how you apply it, right? This is the, I call them by colors. Everything to me is by color, the black and the white. So this is, the white is the ultra fine. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a little bit of the grit on my paper towel and I'm just gonna rub it in. You can kind of see already that it's taken away. And I probably spend a little bit more time doing this part of it than I've seen a lot of other guys. How many of you watch Carl Jacobson on YouTube? You guys know Carl? Carl's just phenomenal, and he does a lot of work with Easy Wood turning tools.
What's the difference between this and
Triple E is meant to be a wax and a finish. This is a sanding paste. So now I'm just going to put it on, and I'm going to spend a couple minutes rubbing it in. Can you see that it's changing colors a little bit up on here? Maybe a little slower. I'm using it to heat it up. And I don't know if you can see. I mean, I had noticeable scratches in there. And this is where I was at, right? This range was where I was at. You don't see this. More power to you to come up afterwards and look at it. You'll be able to tell because you can feel the spot here. The scratches are pretty much all gone. And we all said, right, if I had spent a few more minutes, it would have been perfect. Now, what we can do is we can go to, this is the one that I typically use this one on pens. This is the even finer, and someone's going to ask me what the grit equivalent is.
You see a difference to use the first one the second time?
If I use both of them,
No, two goes to the first one.
The black, the original.
you can, yeah, you'll see a little difference. It's not as noticeable. Yeah. And if this was just wood, I would have stopped with the first one.
Yeah.
There's no need to go to that on this other, the first one is, I think it's like 1,000 equivalent. I think this becomes up to like 2,000 equivalent. And as I said, I spend a little bit more time than I think anybody else does rubbing in because I want to get, it's just how I was taught, right? Is the more that I'm doing this, I'm getting random pattern in it. The minute I turn it on and I press, I'm getting radial. Everything is going to be radial after that point. And all I'm doing is,
Now you would use them on your pegs, then put the glue boost on after that?
it all depends. If I'm doing glue boost on as a finish, I may not do this, but because there's a lot of people who don't want the pen to look like a car dashboard, right? And so I just completely transparent. What I do is I will use this finish on there, and then I'll tell them that there's maintenance to it, right? That pen, you're going to have to make sure that you're keeping clean and stuff like that. If I use glue boost only, then it's going to become a car dashboard, and I don't have to worry about that. But there's a lot of people who want the real look of what. Now you can you see any scratches on here?
Yeah, he's going to do it in just a second. There we go.
That made a difference.
Yeah, you saw, I literally had visible scratches. Now, if I were to run through all my sanding grits and then do this, you won't see a single scratch on here. And that's what I love about this stuff. It is a sanding paste, and it really makes a big difference, especially for those of us in the world that are balancing acrylics and acrylic and wood, right? So if I was just doing wood, I'm going to be fine with the black, and I'm going to be fine. And then, but if I'm doing any kind of half wood, half acrylic, I'll go to this extra step and get it all on there. So I don't know how much more I want to beat this.
Is there any types of finishes to avoid after?
No, there is wax in here, so you have to make sure that you do get it all pulled out and stuff like that if you're going to do any kind of lacquering on top of it. That one is done with Yorkshire grit and then lacquer on top of it. It is, but I spent a lot more time making sure that I've got everything pulled out of it and I've got everything buffed out of it.
So what do you use to pull it?
Just more down. Yep.
There's no wax.
There is wax in it.
There is.
Yes. It's kind of
You have issue on the pen
with.
of the wax, not letting the glue
So as I said, I will make sure that I make sure that I don't want to say anything, beat the heck out of it. I will buff the heck out of it this way and make sure that I really have it out of there before I put my glue boost on it. And you can tell when you rub your hand over it. I didn't get all of it out of here, and you can feel it. There's a little bit of a waxy paste to it. So, so I've got about, I asked for 90 minutes, so I've got about 10 more minutes. Yeah, 5 more hours. I'm here to answer your questions now. So let me recap, right? We talked a little bit about, using the round cutter and all the different cutters for doing the cutting, right? And we did acrylic for round. We did the square on the wood. I talked a little bit about how I like to do that. Then what we did was we went through and we talked about the beading cutter. We talked a lot about the chuck, right? So the cool part about the chuck is when I want to take the jaw, simply going to take it, pop it, and I'm done. There's videos out on YouTube of how quick you can actually do that. The jaws, there are no numbers on the jaw, so you don't have to worry about anything numbering up. And there's, if you guys want to stop up. So I know that you're going to get to your meeting. I am going to do a little bit of packing here on the way out. But on the jaws on here, there's also the worm screw on here. It's phenomenal. If you really want to get, I think this is one of the best ones out there. It'll just suck that piece right into it when you're going to use it. There are some other jaws that I have in here. So I've got the traditional jaws that, sorry, I know I'm in the wrong way. The traditional jaws that will come with the system. I've got the pen jaws or the long jaws. And then there's also this set of jaws that will allow you to cut an outside tenon or a long tenon on it and be able to lock it up into here. And then the,
You're having a tougher time getting it back into
Yeah,
the
I
case
know.
than you are putting it into the jaw.
yeah, and then all the nylon spacers and things like that. So we talked about that. Then we talked a little bit about the beading cutter and the 4 different beading cutters and how easy it is to do beading on it. And then we finished off with Yorkshire grit. So I'm here for any amount of time now that you guys want me here to answer any of your questions. Yes, sir.
On the black piece or whatever, yeah, you said that was what was that?
That's a couple now.
What kits do you get for that?
I get them all. So I get all my stuff from Exotic Blanks.
Okay.
And if you send me an email, I'll get the exact number on it, but it'll be at Exotic Blanks. So and then this is, so it's the fun part, right? This is just a simple. I use this. I was explaining earlier to John that this is a reject because. So if you haven't done it, this has nothing to do with Easy Wood wood turning tools. This is how you do casting. And I said, you guys get John Underhill in here to talk to you about this a little bit. But on this piece, I didn't heat the wood long enough when I went to put when I put the resin on it, and so there was some gaps in here. And you don't see them till you turn it down. And so I turned it down. I thought, everything's fine, and then I saw that I got some gaps in here. That comes from moisture in the wood. So the moisture in the wood got into my resin. So this becomes a piece that I don't mind showing everybody. And so it is just a nice little demo piece. And as I said, best part of the time before I leave is come up here and take a look right in here. You saw the scratches when I started it, and you don't see the scratches now. So that it's a maple burl that I infuse with resin. Anything else?
Purpose of the 2 and 4 radius.
Oh, okay, so let me make sure I'm answering the question on that one. The 2 and the 4 radius on the bigger handles?
On the Easy Woodturners.
So the only reason I know of having them in is based on handle size. So is that, because these are the C3s, right? So the C3 is on the 16-inch handle size. The other ones, the 2 and the 4, go on the bigger handles. Is that,
No, what I'm talking about is
Then what am I
radius.
missing?
They make a bit, not square. It's got a radius.
oh, the radius square cutters?
Yeah.
That's, okay, so, all right, so, sorry, I apologize. I thought you were talking about R2 versus R3 versus R4 being radius. You're actually talking, that's just the amount of radius that's on there, right? So all that is that the 2 has got a bigger radius than the 4 has on there, and so I don't, under transparency, right, like I said originally, I've never used them, so I'm not really good with those. And so I will apologize right up front. I don't use those tools, those cutters.
They're pretty good on square pin blanks going back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah, but,
So
Started.
I gotta call Chris and Christy up and say I gotta get some.
And then I bought 2 and never called one since.
Okay. No, so Jerry, do you wanna explain what you just said?
you can go back and forth on the square piece without it digging down into grains.
Which was not your
So we had-
intention.
Well, they used to have to teach classes here for pin turning, for the other school took over. They had the square, and I had them change it to the number 2 radius, because people who never turned before were catching too hard.
I had both set up for radius at once.
Yeah.
They were
Okay,
turning
so yeah,
it
when I was doing
blind
it,
in it.
yeah, we had number 2 radius, it was easier for someone who never even touched the blade before.
Okay.
And not take a chunk out. And it's scary to do when they do that.
Well, I appreciate you guys bringing me up on that one. Yeah, I have been using EC Wood turning tools for 15 years, 15, 20 years. Now you can do it, right? I've been a turner for 30 years, now you can all go, huh, I thought it'd be better, just like this.
Probably got your first cane kits from Hut,
Yes, I did.
Hut product.
Hot, yeah.
They had an article in Wood Magazine or something many years ago. Well, I'm gonna try that 5-piece kit.
Yep, that's exactly it. Yep. So yeah, all that's, well, and when I first started, right, as you probably did, the only thing was a slim line. And all it was a gold slim line, and that was the only thing that you could turn. And then soon thereafter, the cigar pens came out. And then here's one that no one ever talked. You remember then when the Euro pen was called the Mont Blanc?
Right.
So they had a Mont Blanc pen kit, and then Mont Blanc went, nay, we're not calling these Mont Blanc pen kits. And so the company that did them, that was marketing under Mont Blanc, had to go back in and call them Euro. So.
And there was all kinds of importers.
Uh-huh. So, anything else? Did I do it? Go ahead.
The size of the X, because mine is long gone.
Can you do me a favor? Take my card. Oh, so my card is right here. Take my card, shoot me an email.
Okay.
I'll call, or I'll look it up. I've got a whole bunch of hex wrenches. I'll tell you the one that I use at home, or I can get an easy way to do it, and I'll get it for you. Because, once again, I use the T's. I've got all the T's, and I just crank them up using the T's. I don't use
Yeah,
the
I
small
don't
wrenches.
found it, at least in my set, I don't have a T.
I do have one.
So.
I have one, and I promise you, if you send me an email. Anybody wants my card, please take my card. I did say to someone here earlier, if you send me an email, please just tell me your name and what club I saw you at, because it's weird. I will get weird spam things that come to this when I do this stuff. So if you tell me the name and what club I did it at, I promise you I will.
Mind if I check real quick?
Yep, please take the red one. I promise you I'll answer anything they have. Most of the time I will be completely transparent. It's about a day to 2 days is the delay on
That's smaller than a 2 millimeter. Is it SAE or?
I don't remember.
Made in America.
Yes.
That's the smallest one in that set.
It's a 1.75.
I promise you, I use one at home and I'll have it.
We got SAE.
Thank you, Mark.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Anybody want to drive me home? You guys all be home and in bed?
What do you pay?
What?
What do you pay?
My wife would pay more to keep me here.
How does that pop out?
Oh, All you do is you literally pop it in and take the tool handle for about a 45-degree angle,
Okay.
push, and it's out.
Hey, John,
Do it yourself.
have you got a pen so he can sign the release?
Do it yourself.
I don't know, I might have out in my truck. You got a Sharpie around somewhere?
Eight screws every time is
Isn't it? It's the reason that sometimes I do things that I think are not safe.
They also have a set of cold jaws that fits on that same chuck.
I know we've got, it's smaller than 2 millimeters
That's all it's on.
and 3/32.
I'll get the one, yeah.
Excuse me.
once you have that back.
No problem.
There's a lot of good information there.
Thank you.
I've got almost all those tools and I use them, but there's some interesting things that I didn't know, so, cool.
Thank you.
Good
I'm
job.
glad. Thank you everybody for coming out.
Good job, good job.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I enjoyed a lot.
One,
Yeah.
one commercial,
No, I meant ours.
one commercial.
No, I need.
Midwest Pen Turners gathering next year in April. I think it's the week earlier than normal because it's the week before Easter. 300 pen makers. If you want to learn about casting, you're going to get all